Okay, so today I'd like to talk to everyone about the lottery system, specifically how it has an overall negative impact on society, economics, basically most of our lives. I'd like to point out primarily the lottery fails to help the economy. It also acts as a tax on low-income households, and most of the people who do win the lottery end up going broke within a few years. Starting out, the fundamentals of the lottery does not allow society to benefit. How the money is distributed is not very good. Roughly 25% of the lottery proceedings go to state governments. When you see advertisements for lotteries about helping fund education, that's only 25% of the overall lottery money. This was also reported by CNN. About 60% goes to the winnings for whoever wins either the Powerball, Mega Millions, or even the small scratchers. Retailers specifically only get about 5 to 6% of all the money that is used to buy lottery tickets. So for every dollar put into the lottery for each individual location, they only get about 5 to 6% back. Overall, as a result of this, it is much better to buy goods and services than actually participate in the lottery. When you're buying lottery tickets, only a percentage of that goes back into the economy. When you're buying individual goods, the majority of that goes back into the economy. There's a huge difference to what benefits society. Secondarily, I'd like to point out that overall the lottery acts as a tax on low-income households. Specifically, the fact that, as reported by Think Progress, lottery players lose an average of 47 cents for every dollar they put into the lottery. That also includes scratchers, not just Mega Millions and Powerball. With Powerball and Mega Millions specifically, Powerball has a 1 in 290 million chance of actually winning, as reported by CBS, and for Mega Millions, a 1 in 258 million chance to win it. So the actual chances of you getting anything out of it are extremely slim. So why would someone even play it in the first place? It sounds very illogical when I'm talking about it right now. With specifically instant game tickets, as well as Powerball and Mega Millions, CNN reported about 3 out of 4 instant game tickets sold in Minnesota were purchased by people with low income. Also in South Carolina, 60% of instant lottery tickets were purchased by people with very low incomes or people who were almost broke. Most of the lottery tickets, as you can tell, are not being purchased by someone who already has decent money, living wages, that sort of thing. It's done by people who mainly want to seek out winning big money to try and help their future gains. Lastly, I'd like to point out the winners of the lottery, usually, even if they win, don't have a better lifestyle in the end. This is mainly specific for winners of Powerball, Mega Millions, the big ones where you see they win multi-millions of dollars, even hundreds of millions of dollars. Their lives aren't as good as you think they are. NBC and CNBC both reported about a person by the name of Jack Whitaker, who in 2002 won $315 million through the state lottery he was in. He mentioned about how he wishes he tore that ticket up. Specifically, where he was mentioning about how his daughter and granddaughter died due to drug overdoses after winning the lottery. And just 8 months after winning, he was robbed of over $500,000. There's also another person I'd like to point out, Alex Toth, who won a substantial less amount back in 1990, specifically $13 million. He split it with his wife. He ended up having fraudulent tax returns and lost most of his money before he passed away in 2008. Overall, this can be summed up by Cleveland.com, an independent site in Michigan, about how 70% of lottery winners end up broke mostly within 3 to 5 years. Now, most of this information may not influence most people's decision when the next major lottery comes in, whether it's a full $1 billion for Powerball, as most of us have experienced in the past. But I am hoping that the fact that this does have a negative impact on society, how that can influence people in the future about whether they would want to buy the $10 lottery ticket or whether they'd actually want to go and buy something with value that can be used right now. So thank you.
All right, well, you identify what the subject is. The phrasing of the proposition's a little bit awkward, and the same thing is true with the secondary claims. I know what the points are, but I don't know what the claims are necessarily. It got a little bit clearer when you presented on the individual points and you got into the body of the speech, because you usually had an explanation of what it was that you were trying to say, both at the beginning of that section and as you were transitioning to the next point. But I just think it needs to be a little bit clearer at the beginning. So the structure, the signposting in the body of the speech was pretty good. Usually you explain the assumptions. I did think that your explanation on the first point about what the impact might be on the economy is a little vague, but the second and the third points you had good data on to substantiate those points. There are good examples in the presentation. There's a lot of good statistical information when you're talking about who's playing and how much return they get on the dollar. And by the way, I don't know those for including the scratchers, a 47% return on the dollar, that sounds like a better investment than Vegas. So I'm not exactly sure that you're reading that the right way, because it seems like it would be a lot worse in the long run. The odds on the super lottos and the Powerballs and all those sorts of things, I think you were a little bit clearer on. The idea that the poor are being taxed on this, I think that's a good point, and I think there's probably an argument to be made that it has significantly negative consequences to those folks, but you never quite get to that extra point. You're just kind of describing who plays those things, so what's the big deal? If they're broke anyway, they lose another couple bucks. I think there's an argument to be made that says that's often the difference between whether or not their kids eat, whether or not they pay their rent, something along those lines, and I think that would have made that argument, that section of the argument, a little bit stronger. And then the last point is, it's interesting. I don't know that it shows us that we shouldn't play the lottery. The idea that people go broke, I assume that a lot of folks spend their money crazily when they get that, they apparently buy drugs. So that's one of the things that happens there. You had a couple of good examples. The one statistic that you applied mentioned that a lot of people are broke within 3 to 5 years. I don't remember that you gave me a statistic on that, but I know that you did say a substantial part of lottery winners were in that category. You do a nice job speaking to the audience for the most part, maybe a little bit awkward here and there, but usually it's very natural, and I think you come across as pretty credible. Thank you.